Hi guys, today I am here with Drew Fortune, as you know, in the reaction community. Drew, how are you doing? Let everybody know.
I'm good, man. Thank you very much for having me. We had a brief conversation there. We had some
Yeah,
technical
technical.
difficulties, but we got around it. I'm hoping my audio is okay now. But you think that you think us video content creators would be able to figure out some technology at this point? But the both of us were like panicking, But now we're here, man. I appreciate you having me on. We planned to do this quite a while ago, and
Yeah.
we're finally getting to it. So yeah, I'm looking
Well,
forward to it.
I'm literally speaking through a brand new microphone right here, so I've been trying to figure out the sound settings and everything,
Right.
so it's
Okay.
not
Right.
too quiet.
What mic did you get?
It's Elgato Wave 3.
Right. Okay. Like normally I wouldn't give a fuck about like microphones and stuff, but once you get into this, like, is this your first like kind of high spec microphone, or have you had
Definitely,
one
yeah.
before? Right.
Definitely.
Yeah. So man, you're gonna become a massive nerd when it comes to audio and stuff like that now, man. It's
Yeah.
it's it's a never ending it's a
Because
never ending rabbit hole you can go down.
Yeah, because I've noticed all the all the videos I've done recently with this microphone have all been really quiet in volume.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when I've had to go into the editing, I've literally had to raise the volume up on everything.
Right. Okay. And are you using like an audio interface to plug that microphone into, or do you just go like, is it a USB microphone that you just plug
It's
directly into the
just a
PC?
USB.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I'm not too. I had a USB. I used the the Blue Yeti Snowball.
Yeah,
Are you familiar with that mic?
yeah,
The like OG kind of starter mic.
yeah. You used to use
Yeah.
that a lot, didn't you?
Yeah, man. Because I was actually going to bring that up as well. I forgot you were one of the. You were always in the streams, man, as well. So yeah,
Yeah,
you're an OG, bro. I appreciate it. But yeah, man, that was that mic, and I had that in a lot of videos.
yeah,
I used to just use the built-in microphone on my phone when I first started making videos, and then I moved on to I got a Sony A6300, and then I just used the built-in microphone for that.
yeah.
And then I went with the Blue Yeti and thought that was like the best sound quality ever. And then obviously when you start to kind of upgrade and bring audio interfaces into everything, it's a whole different world of audio. So, but yeah, no, it's nice to always upgrade, man. You'll enjoy it, and you'll go deeper into the world of
Oh
of
yeah.
of getting better audio quality.
Becoming
So
one of
yeah,
those
enjoy it.
online keyboard people, just like
Yeah,
this
yeah,
is
yeah,
wrong.
yeah. Oh man, I'm literally one of them people now. I actually, the YouTube channel Lost in Vegas. You know those two guys. Are you familiar with
I've
them?
I've heard of them.
Yeah, they're a duo anyway. I think they're from Vegas. I'm assuming their name being Lost in Vegas, but
Yeah,
I've followed those guys for ages, and I actually found myself like not too long ago. I think they did a reaction to Spirit Box because I actually got into them. They were actually probably one of the main reasons that I started doing videos because I really like their content around like hip hop and everything like that. I just thought they were very
yeah,
insightful, and I ended up just kind of watching a lot of their videos. I actually, you know, learned a lot of the artists from like the hip hop and R&B side of the world that I really enjoy today through their channel. So
yeah,
I actually found myself being that guy that you just described there, commenting on their video because they have the same microphone as me, and I've done like a lot of research into this microphone, and just, well, ironically, I couldn't get it to lower down, but
yeah,
I've done a lot of research into this microphone and how it should be used best. And the guy, like, they're a very good channel in terms of like they know a lot about music. They're very, very good in that way. But like they just weren't getting the best out of the microphone for what it was. Like they're paying a lot of money. They had two of these microphones, and they just were like sitting so far away from it, and it just wasn't like getting the. I could hear it when I was listening to it. I was like, my one like just sounds so much crisper than theirs purely because of the way they're sitting. They were sitting so far away from it, and I was like, you may as well not be using that microphone if you're going to sit so far away. So I just left like a kind of a constructive comment just to tell them, they probably didn't even see it. I doubt they seen it
yeah.
at all, but it just so happened to be on the Spirit Box video that I watched. And I just was like, I was just being that guy. So yeah.
Well, speaking of hip hop, I actually I don't know if you checked it out. I'm presuming you did. The new Kendrick Lamar album.
The new Kendrick album, I did. That came out what, like
Last
3 or 4 months
year, I
ago?
think.
Like kind of the tail end of last year, wasn't it? It was
Yeah.
like 5 months ago, maybe. Maybe even it's probably a lot longer than that. It just feels not too long ago.
Well,
I
as much as I enjoy listening to that album, it was a nightmare to get up on YouTube.
Oh, I can only imagine. Yeah, it's anything like that. Was he with you? It's not UMG, is it? No, they're
I think it's Universal, yeah.
Universal. Yeah. Yeah, I can only imagine, man. Anything like of that. It's one thing doing like a reaction to one of the singles, like a music video, but like trying to do a whole album for something as high profile as that is always going to be a nightmare, you know.
because it
Um,
because it was so weird. Like I uploaded it in, I basically recorded it in two halves because of how long it was.
yeah,
First half completely fine, no block whatsoever. Second
right,
half completely blocked.
really, yeah.
Yeah,
That's strange. Sometimes I can find that I'll have like a video that's unlisted, like the video will be online on YouTube, but it'll be unlisted,
yeah,
and it will be as soon as I click publish, like when it actually goes live. So
yeah,
it will get copyright claimed when it's sitting as unlisted. So like the algorithm has understood that this video has copyrighted content in it,
yeah,
you know, before it actually goes live. But as soon as I publish the video, I get like emails coming through like this has been blocked. So it's like it's weird. It's almost like, you know, and it's annoying as well because normally it would be like you're kind of building up to a release, you know, if you have it unlisted and then you like you say it's going to drop on a particular day. And then, you know, people are waiting around for the video to come out. And then when it does drop and it gets blocked instantly, it's like I could
yeah,
have had all this resolved 2 days ago when I uploaded it originally, you know. So but yeah, to answer your question about the Kendrick Lamar album, I did listen to it. I wouldn't have gone back to it much, but it was a very like divisive album from what I remember. Like there was a lot of kind of like, you
yeah,
know, unusual topics that he touched on from a rap album, which was interesting to be fair. But there's some good singles on it as well. But overall, I wasn't like massively captivated by it to go
yeah.
back to it too much more, you know. But yeah,
Like I wasn't expecting to really like it at all because it's not really my type of music, but I really actually did enjoy it.
yeah, yeah. No, some of those rap albums. I don't know if you know a rapper called JID by any chance. He's signed to J Cole's record label. He's
Nope.
brilliant, man. He actually was one of the rappers I'd found through that Lost in Vegas channel. So if you're into that kind of Kendrick Lamar style, like really good lyrically and that cadence that Kendrick Lamar uses, he's quite similar to Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah.
But he's really good with lyrically, man. He's got some amazing songs. So it's JID. I would highly recommend.
Yeah, I really like that sort of like almost like jazzy style that he goes for with the instrumentals, where it's kind of
Mm.
randomized.
Yeah, yeah. Again, I'd have to kind of go back and listen to it a few more times. But from what I remember, it was like a divisive album. I remember like some tracks were kind of like those, you know, typical hip hop like banger tracks, and then you had like the more experimental, like you said, kind of jazzy instrumentals and that kind of thing. So yeah, but look, I mean,
Yeah,
he's so clear. Like he doesn't have to prove it to anyone at this point. You know what I mean? Like he's done so much, and
yeah,
I think a lot of these artists can kind of just go. It's like architects at the moment. They can kind of just go on their
yeah,
victory lap and do whatever they want. You know.
yeah. Well, speaking of being on Twitch 3 years ago, which you haven't done
Yeah.
in quite a while,
Yeah. Don't
the
remind me, man. Don't remind the people.
the people still want to see you.
I know, man. I know. I look at the moment. Twitch is always like one of these things that is. It's always been like a love hate relationship. I love when I'm in the zone. If you like when I'm in it, it's
Yeah,
like, you know, you shut out the outside worlds. It's all like, but it's a very like with a video, I can kind of do it at my own pace because, you know, it's not live. But with Twitch, it's like this expectation for you to be 100% every time. And I know if I was to come online and there was some days I went online, I just wasn't really bothered. But you know, after about 20 minutes, you get chatting, and then you know you just
yeah,
get into it, and then it just feels like it always is. But it's like that. It's that like almost it felt somewhat fake to me at certain points because it was like I felt like I had to put on this like I'm energetic and everything like that.
yeah,
So it was a love hate relationship because I had some great memories on Twitch, but I found that my like quality of life actually deteriorated a lot with when I was on Twitch because
yeah,
it was like setting yourself like a time to be online. So I'd finish work and then it was like, right, I need to be online at like 7. And then naturally I'm sitting down for the rest of the night and, you know, I wasn't exercising. I was eating quick food because I was coming straight home from work and I'd be just trying to eat food as soon as possible, not really focusing on diet or anything like that. And again, this is kind of like during lockdown as well. So it all just like culminated into this one big like negative thing. So
mm,
there's a bit of a like a negative like connotation that I have with Twitch. It's a great platform and everything, but you know, and look, when it was a big album release or something like that, like I had some of the, you know, most enjoyable nights. We just, you know, you have a load of people in the chat and like the interactions are great. So like you'd always get those moments where you have like the OGs like yourself, and then like there was Alex and Lane. There was a lot of like, you know, Brandon as well. There was so many different names that we'd always throw out there
yeah,
and that I still speak to, you know, on to this day. But you'd have all those guys that were like the consistent viewership, which was like you'd really build a really cool relationship with that. And that's so unique, you know what I mean? Because it's they come to the Twitch stream from YouTube, so they already know who you are, and then you kind of get to know them as well. And then like even if you're like following them on Instagram, you like get to see who they are as a person, because it's all like one-way traffic, as you know yourself, with like content creation.
Yeah.
Like it's if someone's viewing your channel, they only ever see you and you and you, and you never really actually get to know them. So Twitch is like a cool like avenue, or like a way in which you can kind of get into your viewers' life, and you can kind of understand that these are actually people who have completely normal lives that watch you, just like me, So that was kind of an eye opener. So like I said, it has really cool benefits, but I always just found it kind of came back to like almost a dread to go online. I was like, oh man, I'm not going to enjoy this, So it just became like a burden. Some people are just made for it, man, I think, and I don't know if it's for me, but maybe one day if I start doing like YouTube full time, or if I do like content creation full time, it will give me more time to do Twitch. Say I could like set a schedule where I'm not so tied down with like my 9 to 5, where I'll enjoy it, because I'll do like say 2 hours, on a weekend, and then it's just I know it's only 2 hours. It'll be like high energy stuff. I'll really enjoy it, because I've only got that little small period of time. But when I was trying to do it consistently, it was just like it just got a bit toxic for me, So yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you probably will remember this. Like, were it Brandon in the chat? He sent you that video.
Bro, this is like this is PTSD for me, man. Like but like that's what I mean. It's like inside jokes that other people would look at that.
Yeah.
Like if someone just happened to join the stream that day,
yeah.
like you're talking about the story that he created involving me as a character. Man, I probably still have that somewhere, but
I think I still have that saved somewhere on my YouTube.
He probably has it as well. He has all sorts of shit on me from like years ago on my Instagram. He like screenshots it and sends it on Patreon and everything. But like now, Brandon's a legend, and it's those kind of people that make the community, So you have to be always grateful. I know sometimes you kind of have to like do a lot of like almost vetting as well. And the one thing I didn't like about Twitch as well is that like people within the community themselves can sometimes get in like weird disputes, and you by default become like this awkward moderator because like you are the person who is streaming. So people like I vaguely remember one night, I remember someone said some like kind of, it was almost like a homophobic slur, like very like light homophobic slur from what I remember, but someone took it like very like they took a lot of offense to it in the chat. And I get it to a certain extent, but it was like I now became so involved in it because like, and it wasn't like this big ongoing debate. It was just someone said something like kind of, tongue in cheek just in the chat. And like I would have just like I wouldn't have, bought into it, but I would have just, you kind of like laugh along and move on, because you don't want to start calling people out and all this kind of thing. So then someone in the chat like called them out for saying it. And then all of a sudden it was like I could see I was kind of trying to ignore it because I just didn't want that negativity. Like I just didn't want to involve myself because it can just bring the whole stream down. And I'd be quite like sensitive to that kind of thing, like for these kind of emotional topics. So I could feel my mood kind of changing, and I was nearly just going to be like, right, I want to turn the stream off now because it was just getting weird.
Yeah.
So I remember specifically like one night where it was just like this weird, it wasn't even that big of a deal, but I just remember having to kind of like say, right, lads, that's because it just kind of got like weird. I could see more comments talking about it. And then I was like, oh, I have to step in here. So I had to say it. And that's the weird thing about like dealing with, again, like I said, human beings, people who have emotions. It's not just like names popping up like on YouTube. It almost feels like that because you never really see these people. They have like a little avatar that is just like a letter and they have a name. But when it's on Twitch, it's in live time. It feels very real. So it's getting used to that dynamic as well. So yeah, that was another kind of thing that I thought about that kind of gives me like these weird memories of Twitch, But yeah.
I can't remember the names off the top of my head, but remember when you were mostly playing Call of Duty, weren't you? At the time.
Yeah. You see,
and
again, this is like a big.
And there were those two guys that were on the voice chat.
That were like my friends.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they were friends.
There was a few of them, yeah. Like we kind of chopped and changed because man, I was streaming for
just so random.
Yeah, it was always like a new person chopping and changing every night. But no, we had great fun on like Warzone and that kind of thing. But sometimes like it did become this like weird thing because like I'd almost have to kind of moderate how my friends would speak because I'm live, So obviously they don't mind, they don't care. They're not going to be like, oh, I'm just going to say, like, they understand that it has to be tone dialed back a bit, because obviously, yourself when you're with your friends, your tongue flies and you say whatever you want. You don't really care because you all know each other. You know, you understand different dynamics between friend groups that you're not really saying something to mean it this way.
Yeah.
But that same, you know, that's not picked up by an audience that doesn't really know you that well. So it was always this weird kind of like, maybe I overthought it, but I sometimes felt like I'm being a burden to the rest of my friends by streaming. So it kind of then became more negative in that way. And then sometimes I actually like to just get on and stream and play by myself. So then that was like another weird negative avenue because I'd be like almost not playing with my friends just so I could stream. So it was like this weird, like kind of constant like circle of almost toxic weirdness. I don't know how to explain it, but yeah. And then it was always like with the chat would want me to just constantly listen to music, and like I'd be going on and gaming to get away from like, because I'd spend the whole day like editing a video or like listening to an album or like listening to music and then like making YouTube videos around music. And then when I'd get online, all I'd want to do is listen to my music and, you know, music that I'm actually really into at that moment. I don't want to discover new music. I just want to chill out, you know, play games, chat to the, you know, community. And then you'd get like people that would just join the stream and be like, hey, listen to this. And then they'd like leave a little comment and saying, well, I'm only here for music, so why am I going to watch this? So again, that like negative feedback, just kind of like, why am I doing this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get these negative comments or just this weird energy, you know, and then it just kind of feeds back onto the stream. So yeah, man, first world problems, first world problems.
Yeah. So let's actually get into the questions now.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
One of
15
them,
questions, yeah.
one of them we've already kind of covered, so we can skip
Right,
that.
okay. Right.
So,
It is 15 though. Yeah, that's
yeah,
I know that's the title of the video originally. So
yeah.
right, okay. I'll try and not speak too long on each question then because we could be here all night.
It doesn't matter really.
Well, I'll see, because I can speak all day, man. So
I know you can.
yeah, yeah, I could go all. You know me. So I'll try and do my best to not give the longest answer possible because we'll be here all night. You know.
Right. First of all, out of all the videos that you have uploaded, what's your favorite one?
Wow, I've got like 700 videos at this point, and a lot of them I've kind of archived or deleted. Well, not a lot of them, a good few. Um, in recent memory, it would be because obviously at different periods of time, it's different videos, kind of almost like what's the word I'm looking for? They kind of highlight a particular period in time, and like one video might kind of, what's the word I'm looking for here? Like one video would really stand out in time as being like that particular moment in time. Like for example, Meshuggah really reminds me of like lockdown and like that time. I know lockdown was a pretty shit time, but for music, Meshuggah like really reminds me of that time from like a positive way because I kind of started to get into their discography at the very early stages of that. So it's really hard to pinpoint one video in particular that I really love. But recent memory, it's definitely the full album reaction to All Our Gods Have Abandoned Us by Architects, purely based on the emotion of that album. Beyond that, probably Valjarta's Mastad Under Vatten.
Yeah.
That one was just so different for me. And I kind of just knew, you know, like sometimes when you just hear an album for the first time and you just know that this is going to be like something I'm jamming for the next few months, or if not for the rest of my life kind of thing, or at least for the rest of my time enjoying this kind of music. So
Yeah.
that was that album for me. So yeah, that's what sticks out to me right now. It's Valjarta's Mastad Under Vatten. And then the more recently is the Architects album, just because of the story behind that album and the kind of emotion and yeah, so brilliant albums.
Yeah. The new Meshuggah album. Like I
Mm,
can appreciate what Meshuggah are doing, but
yeah,
since they're this far into the career now, and
mm,
hearing the new album just didn't do anything.
really, you weren't a big fan?
No, I just turned it off after about 3 minutes.
Really, three
Yeah.
minutes?
Yeah.
I'd say 3 minutes is harsh, but I hear you. You know, I hear you. I'm kind of like weirdly the opposite. I found like I loved Obzen, which was like, again, I don't know if it's because it's that like nostalgia vibe where
Yeah.
it was the first kind of album that I'd heard from Meshuggah.
Yeah.
That was again back like early lockdown days where I just did I pretty much reacted to their entire discography through doing the singles as opposed to doing album reactions. So it took me like 2 months, but it was like daily uploads because again I was doing nothing during lockdown. It was just indoors all the time. So Yeah, like I get what you're saying, but funnily, like that album has actually kind of grown on me, like even more. I think it obviously because when I went to see them live, when I done the whole backstage thing, I don't know if you've seen the podcast that I did, but or even just knew roughly about it. But when they came to Dublin, I obviously got to see them backstage, and I got to see them do their sound check. So they actually played Light the Shortening Fuse and Broken Cog in their sound check. So that's like the first, I think, the two first opening tracks of the album. So like now hearing all that is like a whole different level of appreciation for those songs because hearing them live, man, it was like one of the, I can't imagine a band. And I've always heard that they're like one of the tightest bands live. And again, I've only been to two live shows for metal, so I don't really have much comparison. But man, it's going to be hard to beat the sound that they were able to recreate. Like their sound was so
Yeah.
similar to the studio produced version, so it was amazing to hear that. So yeah, my opinion on it is maybe a little bit altered in that sense, but I think towards the latter part of the album, I kind of lost a little bit of interest. I definitely see that, but I definitely wouldn't have turned it off after 3 minutes. That's a little bit early. That's a little bit short.
Yeah. Well, I actually got into Meshuggah's sound because I was watching your videos around that time.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So you
Like,
would have. Was that like the Obzen days,
yeah,
or do you know when it was? Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah. So were you familiar with them before that, or?
not. I heard the name, but I wasn't really listening to them.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Look. It's not a band for everyone, most certainly. But if you ever do get the opportunity to see them live, I'd jump all over that, man. I don't know if I think they finished their like European tour now, so I don't know if it's going to be another while if they ever come back. But man, I'm
Yeah.
just glad to say that I was able to see them live. Iconic stuff.
Well, this next question is going to be one which is probably going to be hard for you to answer.
Sure.
New Sleep Token or New Periphery?
Oh, Sleep Token all day. Absolutely Sleep Token all day. Which might be controversial to some of my audience, but just based on one, it's like obviously we had four singles from Sleep Token and we've only had two from Periphery.
Yeah,
Um, I've really not found myself going back to Periphery that much, but I haven't stopped listening to the new Sleep Token.
yeah,
Um, and it's again, I know they're both like technically prog, but it's like two opposite ends of the spectrum of prog.
yeah,
Sleep Token goes for that more like that sexy style, especially with their new sound. That really unique kind of blend of hip hop and obviously that metal, massive breakdowns and that kind of thing. That's the vibe they're going for. Whereas Periphery is like balls to the wall. Like the two singles that they released are like the second it starts. It almost the two intro opening riffs to both songs are actually very similar. I think I kind of called that in my video that I did for them. Like it was very similar in the way they started both tracks, but like it just doesn't give you any minute to like even you know fathom what's going on. It just gets straight into the riffs. Don't get me wrong, some
yeah,
absolutely amazingly technical stuff, but you know seems more like that kind of spectacle sounds that they're going for. With some like there is some cool parts in it, and I liked all the glitchy like post production stuff that they did in Wildfire in that intro riff. But I would definitely side with the new Sleep Token 100%. Absolutely. What about you?
I mean, I really love both of them, right? Both
Yeah.
both bands, what they've released. I weirdly am listening to Periphery more.
Right. Okay.
I
Interesting.
I didn't expect that when going into it because I'm not really a prog person.
Yeah.
Uh, I
What
think
would
it, I think it's just the melodies from the Periphery song that hold it for me.
yeah. Would like would you what genre are people considering Sleep Token these days? Like I
I
know they could technically fall into like prog, but it just feels like a thing of their own, doesn't it, at this point?
probably old alt metal, probably.
Yeah, I think I actually looked up a definition of that recently, and it was like alternative metal slash like hard rock slash
Everything.
yeah, it's like it is a lot to be fair, but it's kind of like I guess it technically like especially the summoning, like I mean it's definitely that prog sound. I mean the other tracks like what Aqua Regia and Granite definitely cater towards more of that pop audience. So it would almost be like that kind of hard rock slash pop sound, I guess that would be the genre for that. So, but then like the summoning is definitely that prog track, you know, like it's got so many different, you know, spins and switch ups. It's pretty ridiculous. But yeah, no, it would definitely be the new Sleep Token releases for me, absolutely. Over the Periphery ones anyway, you know.
Yeah. My concern is for the Periphery album because I am worried about how it's going to feel in terms of the whole album, like how the pacing's going to be. Yeah,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Well, what's your concern with it? Like, what do you mean? Do you think it's not going to sound right pacing wise, or?
I feel like I'm worried it's going to be a bit too slow pacing, even though the songs are quite technically fast. If you know what I mean?
Yeah, see, I suppose it kind of depends on which genre you're like looking at it through the lenses of, because a lot of the like metalcore like reaction scene and the audience that enjoy a lot of the music that we would react to and that kind of thing would also like, because there's like in metalcore there's like that gent sound, and obviously Periphery kind of like at the other end of the gent spectrum where they have that genty sound but it's in the prog scene.
Yeah.
Like naturally people will from the metalcore scene and everything will gravitate, you know, towards Periphery. One, because they're an iconic name. Two, like the reaction channels and everything will obviously, you know, pull towards that as well, because Periphery will bring in like numbers for the channel. So naturally the metalcore audience and the, you know, the deathcore audience and that kind of thing will watch these videos, that channels like that make reaction videos in the metalcore scene, they'll watch those videos, and then obviously there'll be hype around the Periphery releases. But it'll be interesting to see how that metalcore audience takes to the longer, you know,
Yeah.
more drawn out prog sound. So I guess yeah, that makes sense in terms of what you're saying with the pacing. I think Periphery are absolute masters of that, to be honest. But their sound has changed a lot. Like even I've kind of gone back. I still need to check out their P1 album, and then I have to do like a few songs off of P4, that Hail Stan album. But other
Yeah.
than that, like even here in P2 and P3, like to me, there's a lot more like single worthy tracks. Like it feels like an album full of singles to me. Whereas I think with their newer sound, like with Hail Stan, it's definitely like a lot more traditionally progressive, like longer songs. And I think this album, like with the two tracks we had, were like what, about 6 minutes each. So I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they had like a kind of a 10-minute long track like they did with Reptile, like one of these really like
Yeah.
masterpieces of a song, you know. So that is really mood dependent, that kind of music. Like Reptile, I'll always appreciate that song as being what it is. Like it's an amazing song, but it's very much so like a time and a place song where, you know, whereas like the Sleep Token music, I can kind of throw that on in a lot of moods, you know. it's
Yeah.
it's got that funk sound at the end, like with the summoning, and then you have like Akaregia and Granite, and like Chokehold as well to a certain extent. Like they're really catchy, like moody songs. You can almost like pick any mood for it, and they're easy listening.
Yeah.
So Periphery is kind of like you have to really like be like in the mood for that technicality and that long form content. So
Yeah.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see, man. It'll be really interesting to see. But also the way, you know, music is these days, it's massively dependent on how they release it as well. And Sleep Token are like the masters of being whether or not it's intentional or not, but like they've really like found a really cool way of dropping singles with the way in which they've been doing them, you know, with the last, you know, four singles. I think the shock value of, you know, the first two singles has just carried, they've just got so much momentum now.
Yeah.
Every reaction channel in our genre is like ready to go on that Thursday night when they drop, or is it Wednesday? Yeah, they do it Wednesday and Thursday. So like every channel, like I'm staying up till like, you know, midnight here to get the video out as soon as possible. So like there's a lot of that. So they're like really nailing that like marketing standpoint. So it just feels like they're like more modern, whereas Periphery are kind of like that older band to me. So like it'll just be interesting, man. I think that it's kind of cool to compare the two, like dropping at the same time, because
Yeah.
obviously Periphery did two singles as well, dropping them at the same time. So it's like this new wave of you know, music releasing, you know. So it'll be interesting. I can't wait to hear both albums.
Just from seeing how Sleep Token are releasing the songs, and now that we know that Periphery's album is out in March, I think.
I think it's March, like Was it
10th,
14th or something like that? I
something
think.
like that.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, March. I think. Yeah.
I think it's going to be interesting because it looks like Sleep Token's album might be March as well. Like maybe
Well,
the
yeah.
week after.
If they continue the way they've been releasing, I think people were saying that by default it has to finish in March. So we got what, two singles last Wednesday and Thursday. So we had, I think, the 4th and the 5th, and then the 18th and the 19th. And then it'll be the 1st and the 2nd for the next two.
Yeah.
And then it'll be the 15th, 16th. And that brings us up to eight tracks. And I believe there's 12 tracks on the album. And then I think it's the 1st and the 2nd is the next two, which will be 10. And then it will be the 15th and the 16th of March is apparently, based on what I've seen, that new album is going to have 12 tracks, and that should finish on the 16th, which is the Thursday of March. So
Yeah.
that's, from what I understand, is how it's going to work. So yeah, it'll be kind of like in and around that periphery drop time. But yeah, interesting, man. It's a kind of unique way of dropping music.
Yeah. I don't. We kind of gone through this question, but what album you're looking forward to the most out of the
Hmm.
ones you've seen?
Yeah. God, there's so many big drops coming up this year, man. I would normally see a lot of bands are kind of keeping it behind closed doors as well and teasing it, but I think Tesseract will be a big album for my channel, just
Yeah.
because I've loved that band for so long. To say I'm that excited about it, maybe is probably a bit of a lie, but I think when the hype starts to come around, and if they drop like a big single that kind of gets the hype going again, because I'm just a Tesseract fanboy, they just have such a special place in my heart. They were like the first like very like gent prog bands that I ever really got into, and I like they were my top listened artist for like 2 years in a row or something like that. So they've always been like a special band to me personally. Um, to be honest, having heard like other bands, and I always consider those as my favorite band when I was kind of early doors reacting to like the metal music and discovering new bands. But now over the last year, I've discovered so much new music, and obviously my taste has changed as I've gone along as well. So it's evolved. Their sound doesn't appeal to me as much anymore, but I think just because I've never actually reacted to any new music from them, I've always gone back, and I've never actually been around for like a Tesseract release. So that's going to be like interesting to be a part of that.
Yeah.
Outside of Tesseract, I like to not harp on too much about Sleep Token, but I think I'd be really excited for that album if it was going to drop like a normal album, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because obviously they're going to finish up with like the last day being like the 16th of March or in and around that time, based on the way they've been dropping the singles. So it's kind of like, I get like now it's great because they're literally keeping audience retention for like 2 months straight because they're just dropping every 2 weeks. And it's like really, you know, if they can continue to be as consistent with the single drops, if each single, if they, out of the two drops that they do every week, if at least one of those singles is really good, they're going to have like 2 months of people talking about them. Whereas with albums these days, it's like, they drop an album on a Friday and people are already talking about the next release by Monday. So it's only like a weekend that an album's really spoken about, unless it's really, really good. But Sleep Token have like done so well to just keep that hype all the way through, and people are still talking about it. So I am looking forward to seeing how that finishes up, I guess, because it's been so, it feels like you're part of like a big, coming out party for Sleep Token, because obviously they've been in underground for quite a while. And now it feels like, I think their monthly listeners went from like 300,000 to like 1.2 million over the past like month, which is ridiculous. Like that's what, like 3-4 times their popularity in like 1 month, which is pretty crazy for any band, or any artist at all, to quadruple your monthly listeners in a month. So God knows where their monthly listeners will be by the time the album actually drops. So, other than that, I think there's like some Humanity's Last Breath that's going to drop this year, and Vajrata Artis and stuff as well. So if that Humanity's Last Breath album comes out, that's going to be huge as well. I know Currents are probably dropping as well. Looking forward to that. Yeah, that's all I can think of at the top of my head, man. There's been so many different like talks of different bands releasing, so I'm looking forward to a lot of different things, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, next question. What made you get into YouTube?
What made me get into YouTube? This is always a weird one. I can't really, because man, it was so long ago now. I think it was like 2017 when I started making videos. Like the when I really break it down, like now the reasons that I'm on YouTube feel a lot different to where I was originally. I felt like when I started first, I didn't really have a goal with the channel. It was more like doing it for just. It felt right. It sounds kind of cringe to say, but it felt like I couldn't ever stop doing it. Like I haven't stopped since I've started. I've obviously had loads of thoughts like, oh, this isn't for me, or I don't want to do this anymore. But I don't see myself ever not creating content. You know what I mean? I just from now on, I just can't see that being a thing where I'm not playing some part in creating some form of content. You know, who knows where I'll be in 5 years, what kind of content I'll be creating. Maybe it'll be something different. But like as to why I got into it, I actually couldn't tell you, man, to be honest. It was definitely a different time when I started making videos. Social media was very popular in like the like kind of fitness scene and everything. And I was really into like going to the gym. I kind of started going to the gym, and a few guys I know in like the local area, like that I live, were making videos, and I saw they were doing pretty well. And I was like, I feel like I could do something like this. And I always watched a lot of like vloggers, your typical kind of vloggers that people would have watched. I've always watched YouTube. I've consumed so much content since I was a kid. I kind of grew up in that like content consumption era. Um, so I've always been watching like whether it be like KSI, like the Sidemen, all these kind of videos. So I always just loved watching content. I never watched like traditional media. Like I never really watched TV shows too much. I never really watched movies. I was always into gaming and music, and then like just consuming videos like on YouTube. So I think I've always just been very deeply immersed in the YouTube world, and I think I just had that urge one day, and I just said, "Fuck it, let's go for it." And I just started creating content around whatever was going on in my life. Like it was just when I look back on it now, obviously it's like, what was I doing? But I don't really regret it. There's certain videos that I've like I mentioned, I've kind of archived or removed, but it's more so because I just don't think it aligns very well with where my channel is now, and I don't want people who may watch my channel now to be getting recommended videos that have just nothing to do with what I'm doing at the moment. So, but like I'd never take back those days, because obviously all of the early stages of learning has gotten me to where I'm at the moment. So you kind of need all that. But yeah, long form, like I mean, short answer to that is I actually don't really know what spurred me on. I think I was just very impulsive, which I'm happy of now. When I was younger, I just kind of like had an idea and I just went with it. I didn't think about it too much, which is probably what a lot of people do, which holds them back. Whereas I never really thought that way. So look, it's I'm glad. I'm glad.
Yeah. So next thing I want to ask is we kind of gone along this a little bit already, but outside of metal, what do you like to listen to?
Oh man, my taste is quite broad. Like I mean, I grew up listening to like, I love James Blunt. Like I love all that kind of music. I had like Shane Ward, Westlife. I had these kind of phases when I grew up. I had like God, there's so many. I like really got into like chart music. I like a lot of
Yeah.
like I like Tory Lanez. I like some R&B artists. I never really got into like Drake. I grew up on Eminem. Like Eminem was my idol at one point when I was younger. This would have been like early like kind of music listening years. That was like the first artist that I ever really like got into their discography and like learned off all the lyrics and really fell in love with like an artist that way. That was Eminem. And then naturally being on Spotify and like YouTube and all was obviously coming in. Well, maybe not Spotify, but like definitely you'd start to, on iTunes, you were like buying music. Then like grew up a little bit. This is still quite young, and then got into like hardstyle music, like dance music, really heavy like dance music. Um, and then it kind of went into more progressive like dance music, I guess, like kind of like deep house music. Then that kind of had its that done its course where it's kind of like with metal, you know, you kind of get a taste for like light metal music, like kind of maybe alternative rock, and then you think, oh, this is very heavy, but then you start to like hear something a little bit heavier, and like slowly you get more comfortable with that heavier sounds. Although you thought that you'd never actually like it, you know, you're like, oh, I'm never gonna like screams and metal or harsh vocals or like really heavy guitars or drumming. But then over time, it becomes like an acquired taste where you just start to get more and more heavy, and you start to appreciate the heavier sounds. So it felt like that a little bit with like I like deep house, and then I moved into like really heavy techno music. I loved all that like kind of rave scene. So this is when I was like kind of 18, when I was able to start to go into like nightclubs and stuff. So um had a pretty big like period of my life where I was listening to a lot of like dance music. And then prior to that, it would have been like I've always had this like not zest isn't the word, but I've always appreciated like heavier sounds, whether it be through like rave music, techno music. But then I always liked metal as well through, like I said, I'm a gamer at heart, as you know, from being in the streams, playing Call of Duty since I was young, like, you know, 13, 14. There would have been like Call of Duty montages, and I listened to a lot of metal through the, like, you know, the montage clips. People would obviously, you know, add the sniper montages of people doing trick shots, and you'd have like different bands playing. So I always saved a lot of those tracks, and there's tracks that I go back to now, like from Chevelle, Breaking Benjamin, Skillet, like all these kind of bands that I always listened to when I was younger. And then obviously we've kind of gone for a full circle, and I'm back to listen to, you know, metal again. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't even know where that question started, but that was pretty much my history of music, I guess, from what I can recall.
Yeah, I started to notice it a lot when you just randomly pause a song during a reaction and just come out with something that probably no one's ever heard of.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's probably a different insight into, I suppose, a lot of metal songs. Like there's some guys who are just brilliant at spotting similarities between different bands. And like obviously as I've become more experienced with like listening to more music, especially over the last, you know, the last year, I've done a lot more albums than I ever would have done before. So I've already found myself being able to kind of, you know, call back to different bands that certain elements maybe have were taken from. But yeah, no, you're right. I think I've always, especially with like synth waves and, you
Yeah,
know, that kind of metal sound, I've always been able to kind of like call back to like my days of going to nightclubs and being so invested in like the EDM scene and dance music scene, that I've always been able to, you know, just even pull similarities from it, and then I'll obviously pull up the song that I'm referring to. So that's something I've seen comments on my channel before, where people are like, you know, thanks for suggesting this song,
yeah.
you know, because, you know, I like dance music myself, and I was able to kind of suggest this. So yeah, there's been a few moments like that. No, you're right.
I've just realized something. I didn't
You weren't
write.
recording.
Yeah, I'm recording, but
Right.
I missed a question out. I didn't write it down, so I've got
Okay.
14 questions,
It's good, man. Whatever. It's all
which
good.
is good. But
I'm not even like treating this as like a list of questions.
yeah,
I'm just chatting here, man. So don't worry about
yeah,
that, you know?
yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna get rid of this next question. It doesn't make sense.
Sure.
So the next question is, what is a controversial music opinion that you have?
Um Lorna Shore are awful.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, from what I've heard, okay, awful's harsh. To be controversial, I'll structure the sentence like Lorna Shore are awful, but it's just, I know Metal Burp
Yeah.
a piece with I think it's Rachel Reacts recently, and he put on his Instagram where it was like a clip of talking about people need to stop speaking about how Lorna Shore are overrated. And I get where he's coming from, because obviously, how can a band that has grinded for years and years be overrated when really in the grand scheme of things they're actually not that big? You know, obviously they're big now in the metal community, but like they've not blown up compared to how rappers can blow up, or like mainstream artists that get played on the radio have blown up. You know, blowing up in metal like Sleep Token is very different to blowing up in, you know, I suppose pop culture. So yeah, if you want me to structure it like a controversial opinion, I will say Lorna Shore are awful. But what I really mean by that is I personally don't fuck with their sound. I think the music is very shock value like orientated. So whether or not their music is actually that good, I don't know. I don't personally like it, but I think why they're getting a lot of attention and that kind of thing is one, because Will Ramos is obviously very talented. There's no denying that. Like from a vocal standpoint, he's very, very good. But I just don't get the hype around them at all, man. I just think it's absolute noise for the most part. I get there's definitely certain metal elements. I've heard that their most recent release is Jesus, sounds like thunder and lightning outside. I've heard that their most recent metal release, which I spoke to Chandler Burton about on his podcast recently, um, he was saying to check that out. I think that's Pain Remains, like the different parts. I don't know if
Yeah.
you have you checked that one out.
I've heard them, yeah.
Right. Okay. So he was saying that there's like some kind of like I don't know if it was like they switch it up slightly and go for like a more slower segment or melodic. Again, I haven't heard it, so I don't really know. He kind of just briefly spoke about it, but it's not that it's not all that balls to the wall as like To the Hellfire was, which is I think the only track. I think I've done 2 tracks by them. So again, it's unfair to say I think they're really bad.
Yeah.
But if that's what their sound is overall from the 2 I've heard, I just don't get it, man. You know, I think it's a spectacle band that is very much so playing into the fact that they are aware that being very, very like having these moments in tracks like the Will Ramos, like pig squeals and all this like really intense growling and like that kind of stuff. I think they are aware that that brings eyeballs to videos, and that's to a certain extent why they've blown up. That's my opinion. What about you? What do you? Am I off the mark on that, or what? Like, what do you
I think
think?
you're probably about right.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you feel the same, or like, do you like their music overall, or what do you think about their music?
I I definitely haven't gone back to any of their stuff recently.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It strikes me as music that you watch the video when it releases. For
Yeah.
the majority of people, I know there's some people that really like that
Yeah.
level of intensity. For me, I don't really see what purpose it serves. It doesn't have any groove. Again, this is just from 2 tracks that I've heard, so
Yeah.
it's kind of coming from a place of purely because you asked for a controversial opinion. I'm kind of like
Yeah.
leaning into the controversial side of things, but I would still stand by a lot of the points from what I've heard. The 2 tracks that I've heard are like just feels like I'm listening to like someone throwing a bin down the stairs, like you know these like industrial bins, you know, like it's just like fucking noise in my ear. There's no like rhythm, no groove, like
Yeah.
it's them like it's just kind of, and then like screams for the sake of screaming, a lot of that kind of thing. So I get both sides. I get Metal Burp saying that like it's unfair to call them overrated, which yeah, I would agree with that because it's kind of hard to be overrated when you've put so much effort in, and in the grand scheme of things they're not really that big from a like global standpoint, like they really aren't, but in the metal scene obviously they've blown up. So yeah, I see why people would say they're overrated, but it's a weird one because I, you know, would probably technically fall into the same thoughts of people who call them overrated, but yeah, I don't know. That's my
Yeah.
my way of, you know, yeah, I'm gonna get cancelled now by the metal community. Watch this.
Did you see the Sleep Token cover that Will Ramos did?
I may have. I think I recall something. Which song was it? Remind me which song.
With Hypnosis, I think.
I think I did. I think
Yeah.
I did. It would have been a while back though when
Yeah.
it was originally released. I might have seen like the first day or two that it came out.
Yeah.
Um. So yeah, I can't really even like
Yeah.
recall that one. Did he go with the whole like pig squeal sound again, or did he just kind of play it off?
No, he literally just did cleans the entire time.
Okay, maybe I haven't seen it. I'd have to go back and check that one out. But what was he like on the cleans? Was he any good?
Yes, because obviously I never heard him do cleans prior to that.
Yeah.
I was surprised.
Right. Okay. Well, I must give that a check. Look, I must get into it because I believe he's a lovely guy, and I don't
Oh
want
yeah.
like, yeah, I believe he's a really nice guy. So it's one of these things that like uh, that's just my opinion on it. You know what I mean? It's nothing personal. It's
Oh
just
yeah.
it's that sound. It's not just them. I think they're like the poster boys for that extreme sound because they're obviously the most popular at this moment in time. But I think it is like, you know, come on, are we really enjoying this for the music, or are we or is the hype because of how intense everything is? And it's like someone who's not even into metal would say, hey, here's like I'm going to show this to my friend for like shock value, and that's what's bumping the views and the plays and that kind of thing. I don't know, because I really can't see it like videos like that. Like there's just not enough appeal for that niche of music
Yeah.
to be getting that many views other than the shock value, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
I heard a story once, before I get into the next question, I heard a story
Sure.
once about, I forget his name, but the vocalist of Napalm Death. It
Right.
was Tank, Tank the Tank, Tank the Tech.
Like the Tech. Yeah, I know of him. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know these. Yeah, I don't know him,
yeah.
but I know of him.
It was talking about how when he was on the road with the band, because he does the roadie stuff for the
Yeah. I've
yeah,
heard all that. Yeah.
and he were on tour with them, and it apparently the band are like really just mad live when they're on stage, like just throwing energy everywhere,
Right.
and then he'll go to speak to him off stage, and he'll be just sat there with a cup of tea and a science book, just with his
Right.
feet up, just doing
Yeah.
nothing. Like the
And
complete opposite.
right. And that's not. He's not saying that in like a negative way. No, he's
Oh
just saying
no.
it's funny how they. Okay. Right. Yeah. Okay. And I thought you were gonna say he's like real. Like you'd think he's this really outgoing, like nice guy, back like on stage, and then you get to see him behind the thing, and he's just an asshole. But no, he's obviously just means that
Yeah.
it's two different like personalities when they're on stage and off stage. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just so random sometimes when you come
Yeah.
across people like that.
Yeah, it's like the Will Ramos thing. Like, like people who aren't into metal music would see him and be like, "This guy's a fucking demon." Like, imagine even speaking to him. But then I believe he's like the nicest person ever. So it's
Yeah.
like, it's just try not to do. And that's why it feels like a little bit odd to like shit on them a little bit. And it's
Yeah.
not. I don't want it to see it coming across again. It's just that controversial opinion that people are obviously going to be like, no. But is it even a controversial opinion? I think the thing is that it feels like a controversial opinion because the people who would actually voice their opinion back to me would be people who like the band so much that they'd feel they'd need to defend them. Whereas people who agree with me wouldn't feel as strongly about my opinion. They just agree with me and then they'd be like, yeah. So like they wouldn't feel the need to kind of come back with fire. So you really notice the the negative feedback towards me if I was to say something like that, because obviously the fan group of said band are going to come back and try and defend them. So I guess it's only natural, but yeah, I think it's if you can say it in a way that is constructive and you can voice your opinion and describe why you feel this way, then I think people just kind of, from my own experience in the past, if you can kind of articulate yourself in a particular way that makes it sound like you're not just shitting on them for sake of shitting on them, because it's when you just say I hate this band and that's it, that's when people get annoyed. And I'd be the same, if you can't actually like kind of back up to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Obviously your opinions don't have to align with everyone else's, so if we're all just to agree with everything all the time, then it gets a bit boring.
Yeah. I suppose you won't have actually maybe heard their music, but there's a band that when I feel uncomfortable listening to them. There's
Right.
King 810.
No. I thought you were going to say Cannibal Corpse or one of those guys.
No, it's like even though it's not like like gross lyrics about like decapitating people and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of within the same realm where it's kind of like gets a bit weird, if you know what I mean.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No,
It's
this.
where it gets a bit too in depth for me to feel
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
It almost feels like it's not like fiction anymore. It's like this is so detailed that this person might actually be describing something they've done before in the past.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what
No, I get that.
it sounds like something that actually could have happened.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That's where this like heavier side of music can get a little bit rough, and it definitely feeds into the stereotype that a lot of people see like us metalheads
Yeah.
as being these psychopaths that just butcher people in their back gardens. So
Yeah.
yeah, I my opinion varies on that because I can see past the fact that these people are actually mass murderers, and like these insane people that have like, a collection of bodies in their back garden. I understand that it's just art to a certain extent, and everyone's opinions of art is different. So It doesn't always have to be confined by what everyone thinks is art, but there is, you know, there definitely is a boundary. I've listened to some crazy music, and if it's good music, I don't particularly care what the lyrics are because you can kind of pick and choose when to ignore the lyrics and that kind of thing. But yeah, there is some bands
where you
that I've not
can't
really enjoyed
ignore.
this. Yeah, you can't ignore. Yeah, exactly, exactly. So yeah, especially a band like Cannibal Corpse because their name is literally Cannibal Corpse. So
Yeah,
like it's their whole thing is like being that. And then like Infant Annihilator as well is obviously another one that comes to mind.
yeah.
Again, very technical band. I love Dickie Allen as well, but it's kind of like
But
it
with
feels
those
like that.
bands, though, you know that they are joking around.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, like you know, I mean, it was funny because I actually seen that. I know this is a while back now, but when Dickie Allen had a child, like I think it was over a year ago at this point, like obviously he's the lead vocalist of a band called Infant Annihilator.
Yeah,
And I believe he actually like had to put a post out, I believe, on his story or on his actual his Instagram. I don't know if you've seen it, but he had to actually address a lot of people that were essentially like coming at him like in a really negative light, basically saying that how is this guy having a kid? This is from what I remember. I could be getting this like the main part of the story wrong,
yeah,
but from what I remember, he had to actually specifically address people that were speaking on the fact that he's in a band that is called Infant Annihilator, you know, something that is completely separate to his own personal life. And
yeah,
people obviously coming at him like as if he's like actually annihilating children, you know what I mean? Like it's like, come on, you know, people just don't have that. People just can't disconnect the artist from the art, you know? So yeah.
yeah. I have always had this question for such a long time now, and it's probably
Yes.
never gonna get answered, but when's the new Infinite Annihilator coming out?
Is this like a rhetorical question or are you actually asking me? Because I haven't a fucking clue, man.
just the general question.
Just throwing it out, man. Yeah, that would be a fun one to do because Infant Annihilator was another band that I like got heavily into.
Yeah,
Obviously it's easy to follow the kind of trends if a video does really well, and it's fun to do. Like they're always fun videos to react to
yeah.
because obviously the shock value of their lyrics, it's always fun. You know, I can some of
Question
the parts that
is, how do you get the videos up on YouTube? You know, with the titles and stuff like that.
how do I get the videos up on YouTube?
You know, without it like getting demonetized to absolute hell.
Well, the demonetization thing, I've never like. I just accept the demonetization for what it is. I don't like
Yeah.
try and monetize the videos. Obviously, I
What
have
I mean is like YouTube trying to not take down your video.
right. And you're saying because of how intense their titles are, you know, you don't
Yeah,
want to have like that in your title. Um, I wouldn't say they'd take it down for that reason. I think they would more so take it down or like kind of like shadow. There's something going on inside my office right now. It sounds like someone's throwing something around. Um, it would be more so I'd be worried about like the video getting like shadow banned where people don't
yeah,
really get recommended it. But at the same time, like the original video for that song is on YouTube. So that's a kind of a sure sign of knowing if it's going to get taken down or not, you know, because if the original can be up with like a name that's like really ridiculous,
yeah,
like there's some ridiculous names that they have. But I mean, man, YouTube has some crazy shit on it as it is. So
yeah,
I don't know what's going on. So can you hear that? Like someone proper can you
yeah,
hear that noise? Yeah, I don't know what's happening. Sorry about that. But yeah, Infant Annihilator, I don't know. I think Dickie Allen brought out a new song recently with another band.
yeah,
It's actually apparently really heavy, so I need to check that one out. But yeah, I have no idea. Hopefully soon. Hopefully we get something like that soon. That would be a fun
yeah.
album reaction to do, you know?
In the title of the which one was it? I think it was the one that I'm probably not gonna say the actual word because that would probably not be a good idea.
Right.
But this
Okay.
one with the C word.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The
Yeah,
Crusher one?
yeah.
Yeah.
Did you like edit the name of the song when you uploaded it, like with a little
Ye-
asterisk?
Yeah, I think I did like the asterisk in the U
Yeah,
position of that word. But like I probably could have put the actual name in anyway, and I don't think it would have been that big of a deal to be honest.
yeah. But it's
I
always
think
safer to not put it.
yeah, of course, yeah. Like when I tag the videos, I'll tag it like with the actual, you know, when you're putting the tags
Yeah,
in for like yeah, so I'll tag it with the actual words because that's what people are going to type in because people don't care about what they're typing in, you know. Um, but yeah, and I think it adds a little bit more to like the value of the video when it's like the word is like asterisked out
yeah,
because it's like people now are more drawn to it because it's like what word is he trying to hide and they're like oh that's the word and then they're like let's watch this, you know, so it's kind of like almost
yeah,
a win-win because you're avoiding the YouTube like hammer coming down on your video and also you know you're kind of somehow making the video a little bit more appealing to click on, you know.
Yeah. I mean, there's that. I don't know how it got up on YouTube, but there was I think it was cattle decapitation. I think you did a video for it. It
Yeah,
the
I didn't do
one
the
with the
the video though. I didn't like because I believe there's a video like that's fucked. So
yeah,
I didn't do that video, but I think I did like the audio to it, which to be honest, I can't even remember.
because I've seen other reactors react to it, but it's
Yeah,
just completely blurred.
yeah, you probably have to blur it. Yeah, like I mean, you could probably let it slip. It could probably slip through the cracks, but I'd say I don't really know how like strenuous the YouTube like I suppose
Yeah,
banning system is and how well the like manual like reviews and all that kind of go because it just depends. I think you can get lucky with these kind of things, but you're just better off blurring the video. There's no point risking your channel.
yeah. Well, Ice9Kills put up a video recently that actually just YouTube were not liking.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah,
Was it like
like
really graphic or
they had to censor it.
right? Okay. So did they upload it and then take it down
Yeah,
and then like re-upload it and censor it?
think there's an unlisted video still available on YouTube that you can get to watch it
Right.
uncensored, but
Yeah.
the actual one that's up there is censored.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It's a slippery slope you can go down with these kind of videos.
But with their videos, I really actually want to see what's behind the censor.
This Ice9Kills.
Yeah,
Yeah, see, I've never heard any of their music, so I can't even like I
yeah,
can't even agree with you or disagree with you.
yeah. Because their music videos are so important with their songs, so to the point of
Right.
where it is just necessary to see it.
Is that does that say anything about the music though that they need a video, or is it just purely because it's so engraved in the music?
Because it also the songs are like storytelling in a way, like
Right.
with
Okay.
what they are. If you
Yeah.
haven't
Okay.
heard any of their music, you definitely need to.
Yeah, they've been on like the Patreon polls for a while, but they've kind of like I
Yeah,
didn't really know what genre to put them into, so they kind of didn't fall between prog or core music. So
yeah.
I didn't really know how to structure it, but yeah.
I wouldn't do a video for them though because they just constantly get blocked.
Locked, yeah. Okay, all right, fair enough. Yeah, maybe I'll avoid doing something like that. But yeah, no, there'll
Yeah.
definitely be someone I'll be checking out down the line at some point.
So the next question we have, this is a personal one for you, is
Hit me.
in terms of your guitar playing skills, like, hang on, what did I say? In terms of your guitar playing skills, what progress have you currently made?
Good question. Yeah, man. God, I think with the guitar, from my own experience, it feels like you're not progressing. Like it feels like.
Yeah,
Do you play? Do you play yourself?
yeah, I do.
Yeah. So yeah, like how long have you been playing for?
Hold on, I have lost count.
Few
Probably
years, I'm guessing.
think about maybe 5. I think.
Right. Okay. Yeah. From my experience, I've found that I've gone through like waves of playing. Like if I get into a song that I really like and I'll
Yeah,
start learning the tabs for it, I'll spend like 2 or 3 weeks and then that kind of like snowballs into like wanting to play more. And
yeah,
then you might go away for like a week or something. You go on a holiday or like, you just have a period of time where you're really busy
yeah,
and you kind of don't get a chance to play. And it's just like this constant, like, being inconsistent with it because I've just got so much other shit going on with working full time. That's actually one of the main things that I want to do in this year. And it's kind of a goal I'm setting myself is to not necessarily, put myself, I want to put myself in a position where I can do YouTube full time, even if it just means like earning the bare minimum to be able to kind of provide for myself so that I can, spend time doing this. And it's not only just to create content, it's just to do the things that I want to do and feel like I have the time because I'd really love to get really good at guitar or at least, progress as much as possible.
yeah,
Because I just feel like to answer your question, it's one of these things that I feel like I record myself playing a lot. One, because I just like to kind of post Instagram updates or YouTube updates, but also it's like I'll have like Snapchat. I'll just like record myself on Snapchat for like a 60-second segment. And then like even today, I'm getting loads of like memories of me playing a year ago. And I look back on that, and that's when you notice your massive progress because day to day, it's like anything. It's like going to the gym where like you don't go to the gym once and see like massive improvements. It's like if you see a picture of yourself 6 months down the line and all of a sudden you look much better or whatever it is, you're much fitter, that's when you notice that improvement. And it's the exact same as playing the guitar.
Yeah.
Like on a day to day, you're like still fucking shit up, and you're like your fingers are in the wrong placement, and you feel stiff, and like some days you're just like really shit, and you just feel like, oh man,
Yeah.
I'm literally not getting anywhere. But then you know yourself from playing, like you'll look at yourself, or you'll hear a clip of yourself playing from like 6 months prior, and
Yeah.
you're like, man, I couldn't play anything like the stuff I'm playing now. Back then, I wouldn't have been able to play at all. Or you listen to yourself playing some of the riffs that you can play now, and you're like really slowly going through the motions of all the chords and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, buying the 6 string was like a really good investment for me, because I obviously started on a 7 string, because at the time it was just all like
Yeah.
gented out 7 string music that I was listening to. So I was kind of like, I just wanted to have a 7 string because it was cool. But
Yeah.
obviously, from a learning standpoint,
But then when you
it was actually
realize that 7 strings aren't the absolute best place to be when you're not a
no.
best guitarist.
Of course, yeah. Now, see, it's all like you have to kind of go through these trials and everything. Because I did see a lot of comments, people saying interesting move to start on a 7 string. But to be honest, I actually wouldn't take it back, because when I did eventually get my 6 string, like a few months down the line, like it felt so much easier to play, because obviously the neck is a lot thinner as well, and I've got
Yeah.
quite small hands, so I did struggle with certain things. I think the 7 string allows you to be more accurate because the frets are wider, just
Yeah.
naturally, because it's a bigger surface area. So the frets are bigger, so you have like more room for error, if that makes sense. Because if you like have to be really tight with like landing on a particular fret, you have more space to actually land in. But for the stretchier parts where you have to stretch your hand, that's when it becomes a problem. So I think obviously for people with bigger hands, I think the 7 strings are definitely better. But when I got into the 6 string after playing the 7 string for like a few months, I feel like my progression started to really like ramp up, because I was able to play a lot more chords that I wasn't been able to play before. And I just felt a lot more fluid, with the neck being a lot skinnier. So
Yeah.
yeah, I've made good progress. I've recently only started to use that Bias FX2 plugin. Are you familiar with that, or the interface?
No.
Yeah, so it's basically like I don't play. I used to just play through an amp, like just a start up like generic
Yeah.
Boss amp, and I just play it out loud because I'm in like an office in my garden, as you know from the stream days.
Yeah.
The shed, the dog shed, or the dog kennel, as we used to call it. Um, so that's where I am at the moment. But recently, I got into I just play like the song through Spotify into my headphones, and then I have my Focusrite here, the audio interface, and I plug my guitar into that, and then obviously I use my software interface is that Bias FX2, which is just an application that picks up your inputs from the guitar, and you can obviously change the tone of the guitar, and you can like
Yeah.
you can tailor make any like gent tone that you want to make it sound very modern. So that's been a lot of fun to play around with. So I've kind of gotten back into it in that way, but I would like a lot more time to play. I feel like at the moment I'm really trying to prioritize getting as many videos out as possible,
Yeah.
which, as you know yourself, can be time consuming. And then there's the editing that goes, but it's not just recording the video, it's editing the video,
To be honest,
uploading the video.
to be honest, I just kind of just gave up on a schedule, to be honest, and just kind of
Hmm.
just do videos whenever.
Yeah, yeah. Like I don't have a schedule at all. I'm not great at sticking to schedules, but it's also you have to give yourself credit as well. Like, do you work full time? I'm guessing you're working as well, or
I'm at college at the minute,
you're at
so
college. Oh, okay, cool, cool. Yeah. So you're at college.
so
So you have like somewhere you need to be, is the point I'm trying to make, is you're
yeah.
not just sitting at home making videos. Obviously when
No.
you're sitting at home and that's all you're doing, then it's easier to make a schedule because you have
Yeah.
nowhere else to be. But life just gets in the way, man. And that's something that I, would like to have the option of saying, and I'm not necessarily, I do like the routine of having a full-time job, and it gives me that security as well. But I would like the opportunity at the end of the year to be able to say, okay, now I'm earning enough where I can actually afford to, still pay rent at home,
Yeah.
still, eat food and live a fairly maintainable lifestyle, no nothing crazy. Um, but I'd like to put myself in a position where I can actually say, right, well, I can actually crack at this and, spend more time doing this as my full-time job, which would just be amazing. But
Yeah.
yeah, so that's kind of the goal. And then obviously that goes into the guitar playing as well. That'll give me more time to learn that. And that will help me, make better videos because I'll be better at the guitar and understand things more. So it's just a kind of a knock-on effect,
Yeah.
or snowball.
With my schedule on where I want to be after I've left college, it's not gonna be there just isn't room for a schedule at all. It just wouldn't work.
Yeah. What are you studying in college? What are you doing in college?
Film and TV.
Film and TV. All right, so you're getting good. Like, man, this is the best kind of experience you're gonna
Yeah,
get, on camera, because a lot of people will study that, and I'm kind of speaking from a place of what's the word? I won't say naivety, but maybe a bit of like I say, like this is the best place to be on YouTube. I don't
yeah,
really know what you're learning from a
yeah,
that kind of standpoint, but I mean, you're on camera. I'm guessing that's an element to what you're studying. So it's a lot of people probably wouldn't have
yeah.
channels, I'm guessing, and they're not doing the more practical side of things. So yeah. So
Yeah.
what like how many like what year are you in that? Like how many years you been doing that?
I'm in my first year this year,
Right.
and then
Okay.
my last year coming up in September.
Right. Okay. Cool. Cool. And how you enjoying it or
Yeah, it can be
yeah?
stressful though.
Yeah. I think anything college related, man. They'll make like I studied I studied business in college. I came out with a major in business, but I also did like because I did like an arts degree in my college, I had to do like other subjects that were tied into it that I didn't give a fuck about, but I just kind of did them because I didn't want to fully commit to business because I didn't really know if I'd like it or not.
Yeah,
So I chose like sociology, geography, and what was the other one I did? I did something else. But man, I ended up doing sociology and geography in my second year. And then in my third year, I dropped sociology and did geography and business. But I just remember sociology, like, oh man, some of them lectures I was sitting through were just the worst ever. And I was like, this is such bullshit. Like, all I could think was my head. But like, it was still hard, like to say, like,
yeah.
no matter what you're studying in college, even if it just feels like it's just they're just making shit up as they go, it's always stressful. So yeah, it's trying
That's
to stick to any sort of
that's
schedule with college
literally
is hard.
that's literally what college is. Just making things up as it goes along.
Yeah, to a certain, I know there's obviously like you're like more practical, like engineering
Yeah,
degrees and that kind of thing. Like science is obviously there's not very much waffling in that, but a lot of degrees, like even business to a certain extent, man. Like I've got my own experience with like running a business, so to speak, through YouTube. I
yeah,
don't really consider it as running a business, but I mean technically it is. And it's just I've learned so much through this and like dealing with people, like and dealing with labels and dealing with all sorts of like
yeah,
emails going about. You learn so much more. Like I've learned beyond multiple times from doing this. I've learned more than I would have ever learned in any business degree. Now in saying that, I didn't do great in business. It's not as if I was like an A1 student. I'm sure I could probably have taken some practical skills from business, but just from my own experience,
yeah,
I just learn via actually doing it, as opposed to just reading it from a book.
yeah. I'm also just thinking of just randomizing the content on the video a bit more this year, like just uploading random stuff,
Right.
like
What do you
make
mean random? How random we talking?
like something that's nothing to do with music. Like, so I might just put up like, okay, I'm going to make a short film about something, and just
Okay.
do it at that.
Yeah. I mean, look, you shouldn't
Yeah,
really pigeonhole yourself.
yeah,
I'm always open to making new content. I want to do a bit of more experimentation as well, but that's again just comes back to the time thing as well.
yeah,
Like I could spend so much time doing a video that might be a little bit more creative than what I'm doing at the moment, or like just a little bit more like a little experimental to what I'm doing. Where I try spend a bit more time doing something, but it's like not many people might watch it, and then I'm kind of like I'm in a position where I want to get myself that free time to be able to do all that as a job. So I'd rather spend the time like grinding albums and stuff to obviously try and build a Patreon
yeah,
and like just build more of a community so that I can afford myself the opportunity to go full time at this and then give myself more time to actually, really spend time on, being creative with like new avenues, even if it means like in the metal scene. I do like, I'm sure if something came up where it was completely unrelated to metal, I'd do it or music in general. But like there's so many different creative ideas that you can do. Like around metal music as well that isn't just like doing reaction videos, but they just take so much more time, so it's kind of like I've got such a limited time frame at the moment to even make the videos that I'm currently doing, so to try and do anything more than that I just end up burning myself out.
yeah. Okay, I think we should speed these questions up a little bit more.
Sure, let's go, man.
Um,
I'll quick fire through them all. Let's go.
right. Next, what are some of your favorite films?
Oh man, I'm rubbish at films. Favorite films off the top of my head: Saving Private Ryan. Love that movie. I like war movies.
Yeah.
Recently I watched. What was that new war movie that came out recently? The Oh God, I don't know if you know the one. It was in cinemas.
1917.
Is that what it was?
That's the last one
Yeah.
I remember.
Was that the one in like it was massively in the trenches for a lot of it, like really horrible rainy weather and that kind of thing. I can't even remember the plot of it, but it was doesn't really narrow a war movie down, does it? Like saying raining
Yeah.
in the trenches, like that's literally every war movie ever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not a big movie guy, to be honest, man. This is what
Yeah.
I always kind of say. I don't really watch movies. Like I said, I've kind of like been music, gaming,
Yeah.
and like YouTube content is all I really watch. But Saving Private Ryan has always been a staple in movies that I love.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's man, that to us, that's literally the only movie I can think of. That shows how few movies I actually watch.
Oh, I know I should have added it in there. Anyway, let's just add that in. What are
Sure.
some of your favorite games?
Games, like video games.
Yep.
Ah, I've actually gone away from gaming recently. Call
Yeah.
of Duty has just beaten me to my knees, man. You know, I know we used to joke
Yeah.
about like how much just like, you know, how angry I got at that game, you know, from the streaming days.
Yeah.
The rages were just incredible, but like there was always that love for it. Like deep down, I loved it. Like it was, you know, I think there's always been that love-hate relationship, like COD lobbies and that kind of thing have always been so fun,
Oh
and like
yeah.
how toxic, you know, how toxic they are.
Yeah.
But I think they've just absolutely drained the life out of
Oh
Call of
yeah.
Duty at the moment. Like they've just run it into the ground. It feels like the game is just completely in the wrong people's hands at the moment. So
Yeah.
it would have been Call of Duty, and that was like the only game I ever like. I'm a really like kind of like even my music taste, I think my personality across the board is like I get very fixated on like one thing at a time, and I can't really do a lot. Like if I'm really loving Call of Duty, I'll just play that, and that'll all be like what I always want to play. I played Apex for like a small stint as well. I loved that. But then they just started like adding unnecessary updates and shit in, and it kind of gets stale. And it's like, right, they've
Yeah.
ruined it. But Call of Duty's just been something I've always played growing up, so it's always been something that I've always gone back to. But like these days, I haven't played in a while.
Yeah.
It's kind of gotten to the point where now I actually just don't find any enjoyment playing it. Whereas I always found something, whether it just be like shit talking people online or like, you know,
Yeah.
just even just chatting to your mates. Like, but at the moment with YouTube and everything, I'm just spending so much time. Like, I want to kind of grind YouTube this year and build as much of an audience as possible and keep growing the videos. And then obviously in turn, trying to go full time with it. So I am treating it a little bit more like a job that I have to be at, because I want to see myself doing it, you know, maybe towards the end of the year where I can actually sit down and, you know, like I said, say, this is my job now. So I kind of want to start treating it like that in advance. So I'm used to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, games, nah, like Call of Duty has always been my game, but yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's really all I play. I like Fall Guys. I played Fall Guys with my friends, but they're just
Yeah.
kind of like, they're like interval games that I'd play, you know, between rages of Call of Duty. Like, you know, you break your controller in COD and you're
Yeah.
like, you know what, fuck, let's go play Fall Guys. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and then it's back to COD. So yeah, no, I haven't played in a while, man.
Um. Okay. Favorite foods. Favorite food.
Oh man, food. I like these questions because this is like a like more just personal about me questions as opposed to all metal
Yeah.
content. You know, it's kind of catching me off guard a bit. But I'm a plain eater. I'm a really plain eater. I
Yeah.
don't know if you guys have it. You're in the UK, yeah? Like what part of England are you in?
Yorkshire.
Yorkshire, right? I remember you telling me that. Um, I don't know if the UK. Do you know what a chicken fillet roll is? Do you have those in England?
I presume so. I don't know. I'm a vegan, so I have no idea.
Right. Okay. Okay. Well, anyway, it was like chicken fillet roll would be my kind of thing. That would be my go-to. And then at home, like I'm a real like kind of plain eater, to be honest, man. I
Yeah.
don't
Simple.
venture too far out of my comfort zone. Subway the odd time. I like eggs, to be honest. Like I have, like I'll just be as simple as possible. I'm very busy, so I don't like to kind of waste
Yeah.
time making these extravagant foods. I just
Yeah.
like something that I'll be able to do quick, that gives me like nutrition, that'll keep me energized throughout the day. So I wake up like kind of I don't eat in the mornings, so I just have a coffee. Like I won't eat until like kind of lunchtime. I'll just have like one or two coffees in the morning, like just black coffee. Um, and then, but on the weekends, I'll have like eggs and toast in the
Yeah.
morning. Boring as fuck, but that would be my go-to, you know?
Like, I must have the most unhealthy breakfast anyone could
Right.
possibly have.
Hit me. What is it? What is it?
Literally just cake.
You mean like birthday cake? Or is that like is there
Just
some different,
like maybe a cherry cake or something.
like every morning?
Pretty much.
What do you mean cherry? Like, what were we talking about?
Like,
This is mental.
literal just cherry cake with custard.
So you could have like cherry just happens to be like one morning. So you could actually sit down and have a chocolate cake for breakfast.
Probably if it was there.
Bro, that's fucked, man. How you still alive? How long have you been doing this for? What age are you, Sam? What age are you?
18.
Sam, fucking grow up, will you? For fuck's sake, man. Cake for fucking breakfast, bro. Come on, man. We're gonna check up in another month's time, and you want to have to start eating eggs or some shit for breakfast. I'm not even that healthy of a person, but that's fucking mental, bro. Cake for breakfast. That
Yeah.
is mad. And what? You just like wash it down with some fucking vodka Red Bull or something, just to make it as unhealthy as possible.
Not vodka.
But a Red Bull, yeah. You haven't denied that part.
Probably a cup of tea, if anything.
Right. Okay. Well, look, it's not unhealthy, but we're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere. At least it's not like a Coke or something like that, you know.
Oh,
But
no.
look, yeah, that's meant. What do you have for like? What's the food for the rest of the day then?
Sandwiches, maybe at dinner time, crackers, who knows?
Right. Okay.
And basically whatever's left on the evening.
Whatever's left of the cake that you haven't finished, just cake all day, is it?
Just whatever's in the fridge.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I'm a little bit like that as well, but definitely not cake. I've got a sweet tooth. Like I'll eat like loads of like my parents were in Paris there over the weekend and they brought me back like Toblerones. So I've just been like eating them and everything all like evening, but like I wouldn't be eating that in the morning, man. You have that like as an appetizer in the morning after your cake, is it?
Okay. Favorite things to drink?
I've actually, it's probably the first time in a while I've sat down here where I haven't had a Guinness with me. Bad habit I've gotten into recently is like having a Guinness while I'm just making a video. Because I've like started going towards longer form content with the album reviews. It's actually just nice to have like a beer with you, but it's also like a bad habit you can get into and like it can spiral out of control very quickly where I'll just have 2 beers and then all of a sudden I'm having like 2 beers 3 nights a week when I do an album reaction. Now I'm having 6 beers a week just to film videos. And now I'm like, I'm funnier when I'm drinking or something, you know, you might find you're a little bit looser when you're drinking. So you're like, oh, maybe I need to have a drink. So that can quickly spiral out of control. So I have to kind of like reel myself back in a bit. But Guinness would be my go-to drink if we're talking alcohol. I'm a big caffeine addict. I love coffee, black coffee, in the mornings, throughout the day. And then I'm mad for like energy drinks, like Monsters, not so much Red Bull, maybe on like nights out because they kind of like give me the food. Like when I drink Red Bull now, it just reminds me of going out and drinking with friends and that kind of thing and makes me feel sick. But Monsters, coffee, caffeine, yeah, like that's my go-to. Like alcohol, be Guinness. Yeah, typical Irish.
It's just mostly either just anything, I don't know, anything weird, any weird juices or literally a cup of tea.
Any weird juice? So your cake and weird juices in the morning. What kind of weird juices are we talking about here? Like, I don't even. Do I even want to know? Like, what's your breakfast drink of choice?
Well, definitely not for breakfast because I don't usually have time for that sort of stuff in the morning.
Right. Okay. Yeah. You've got too much cake to eat in the mornings.
But this is probably going to sound really random, but blueberry
Nothing could sound random.
Blueberry muffin soda.
Bro.
They exist. Trust me.
You are. You need to. Oh man, I don't even know where to start with that. Blueberry muffin soda and cake. That's not your morning. Or at least that's not your. You just have a cake. You just have a thing for cake, man. Once you knock that cake addiction, you're good, man. You'll be set. You just need to knock the cake addiction, like, and you're flying. You're flying, bro.
Mornings are too depressing to not have cake on the morning.
Cake is like the last thing I could even want in the mornings. I can't even like process how that's a thing. Like it's so random. But look, each to their own, man. Whatever gets you up in the morning, as they say.
Yeah, because I mean it is like 7 o'clock in the morning, so I'm like, I need something.
That's mental. A big cake in the morning. I can't even imagine like sitting down at my Like, where do you like eat this in bed or something? That's the kind of like
No,
behavior of someone who eats their food in bed. You know what I mean?
definitely not in
Oh,
bed.
oh man, look, maybe I'll try it. Maybe I'm missing out. Maybe I'm missing out. I'll tag you the next tomorrow morning. I'll have a big cake sitting there, and I'll be like giving this a go. It's 6 o'clock in the morning. You know. Mm.
Okay. Um. Okay. Some more serious questions now. What advice would you give to new YouTubers?
Um, I kind of touched on this in Chandler's podcast, and I've been thinking about my answer over a little bit, but I wouldn't probably change much from how I answered it originally. So I think the general gist of what I got. Do you mean like YouTubers in general, or like someone who's trying to get into our genre of videos?
I mean, kind of both, to be honest.
Both. Well, I think the same would apply. To be honest, I would say if it's something you genuinely want to do, which is I always compare it to my own scenario because that's all I can do. You know, I can't speak on how other people feel. I just know how I felt when I started. And it was always something that I had like a bit of a burning desire to try. And again, it's kind of hard to remember because this was like 7 years ago when I started, or 6 years ago. Um, my sister actually originally like was the first person like in my family that was like really into, like, she had her channel before me.
Yeah.
And I think one day I just kind of like, she just did like kind of like makeup stuff and like girly things. So I always like looked at her and like, I guess I never really like found inspiration from it, but I think one day I just kind of like the idea of it. Like I said, I started watching my own like content creators and that kind of thing and people that I enjoyed. And then I just maybe I got some inspiration from my sister, like kind of unknowingly. And because obviously her content would have been so far removed from what I wanted to do. So it wasn't really like a motivation, so to speak, but maybe just her even putting herself out there was kind of inspirational in that sense. But um I would say for anyone who's getting into it, just start. Like, it's so cliche to say, but it's quite literally the best advice because so many people will just like, was it analysis paralysis, where they just literally overanalyze something so much that they just freeze and they do nothing. And they just spend their whole life saying, I'll start soon. I'll start when I feel like this. I'll start when I can get myself a new camera. I'll start when I can get myself a new microphone, or, I don't have a place to film, so I'm not going to do, or I don't have like a genre or a niche of videos that I want to do. Just find anything, man. Like, even like, you're never gonna start your first video is never gonna blow up, and you're like,
Yeah.
you're not gonna just take on the world instantly. Like, I mean, I did hundreds of videos before anything kind of took any traction. So,
Yeah.
and like still to this day, I'm like, I think I think you always have that kind of have to have that like learning mindset as well, which is
Yeah.
again something I kind of spoke about in Chandler Burton's podcast, where you really have to always see yourself as like a beginner and never think you know it all. I guess obviously, you can definitely master certain things like that are like production. Like, you can master things that are in your control. Like, I kind of again touched on Chandler's podcast, like try and master, like learn so much about things that actually have like what's the word? It's not tangible, but like is it intrinsic? I don't know if it's intrinsic, but like almost like tangible things that you can actually control. Don't focus so much on the unknown, like, oh, what's this person going to think of me, or this kind of thing. I would just say get as much content out as possible. Don't focus too much on, like I said, the things you can't control. You'll eventually find something that clicks, in my opinion. I didn't have any niche that I fell into. I just like recorded myself going to college, done like vlog style videos, and then eventually started to do like reaction videos, and then just kept following different trends and trends and trends, and then eventually like landed in the metal space. It wasn't like a very easy way of saying, it wasn't like I just landed in metal and instantly I felt like it was like, oh, this is what I want to do. It was like I had to do like a lot of metal videos because I started with like the mainstream, like, well, not mainstream, but like the Metallica, Slayer, like the bigger bands. And that's kind of like naturally how I got into it. And then I started to like, keep going down that rabbit hole, because metal could have just been one of these pit stops that I had along the way. Because I jumped into so many different genres back and forth, and then metal, and I could have just hopped from metal to something else, but I kind of just like was enjoying it, and then I just kept going deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole, and that was like 700 videos later. So like now we're here. So
Yeah.
my advice would be, keep trying different things until something clicks, and just start straight away. Don't think about it. Start tomorrow.
Yeah.
Start now. That's it.
Interesting question I have lastly is If you weren't doing YouTube, what would you be doing?
Another good question, man. These are just like things that you never really consider. Because, like I said earlier, it's like I don't ever see myself not doing this. So to even think of a world where I'm not doing it, I think like if I know who I am now and I have this like burning desire to kind of like it's not like a defiance thing, but I don't really want to live my entire life where I work, you know, myself into the ground. And again, look, it's not for everyone to do this, but I work very hard in my 9 to 5 job, but I also come home and I work very hard on, my passion, which is this. So to me, it's like a culmination of hard work now that I feel like I'm owing it to myself to really put in the time this year to give myself that option to go full time.
Yeah.
So I've always got that kind of burning desire in me to like keep driving towards something like that. So I'm guessing I would just have the same if YouTube didn't exist. I'm guessing that burning desire is just a part of my personality. I think that's always been that way. Especially like my kind of from 20 onwards, or guess when I was in college. When I started YouTube, I just started to like develop this kind of like I don't know what it was. Maybe it's like an attention thing or something being on YouTube, but it's like I want to be successful in some avenue that isn't, I suppose, a traditional avenue. So I don't know what it would be, man, is the honest answer. But I think it would be something outside of the ordinary. I kickboxed for years. I loved MMA and I got really into that. I've always loved sports. I don't think it would ever be, I'm not trying to say like, oh, I'd be like a professional sports star, because that's just the most arrogant thing you could possibly say, but it would definitely be something maybe on a path less traveled by the majority. I think I'd be really trying to push down something that I can kind of, work for myself in. So yeah, whether it be like a business venture or something else, that would be my answer, because I don't have a specific answer.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that was the last thing to really question about. So,
Sure.
any last words, Drew, before we end the video?
No, man, that was a good conversation though. Like, how long was that going for? I know I had the toilet break as well, but we're at what, like 10 o'clock now?
Probably about nearly 2 hours,
Cool.
probably.
2 hours, yeah. Yeah, no, it was a brilliant conversation, man. Again, I just want to thank you personally for one, having me on, and two, for supporting me. Like you've been obviously an OG, like we discussed before we started the recording. You've been an OG of my channel, on the
Yeah.
Twitch streams and everything, and you're always supporting in my comments. I see you in the community section commenting there. I think you posted a comment there yesterday. I actually didn't get back to it because I just haven't had time.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, look, I just want to thank you. You're an absolute legend, and I appreciate you coming on. It's not easy to do a podcast, man. Like coming onto a podcast is like a big deal for me. It's
Yeah.
not a it's quite like I got quite nervous going on to Chandler's podcast, and then I was kind of like a little bit more laid back for this one. But when it actually came to like turning my lights on and stuff, because I was a little bit more used to the lights and stuff, because obviously I'd done Chandler's one, so I was like, maybe I'll be all right. And then as soon as it's like I'm sitting down again, I'm like, I'm nervous. So I can't even imagine being on your side of things. I think I'd be way more nervous, being in the driver's seat. But no, you've done a great job, man. So fair play to you. Keep it up, and I'm sure we'll chat again at some point, my friend.
Yes. Everybody, subscribe to Drew.
Yes, sir.
Subscribe.
And my man Sam as well. Absolutely, my friend. Yes, subscribe to my man Sam as well. He's an absolute legend, an OG in the game as well.
And until the next podcast on video, guys, peace.